Who would be your audience for the product? My primary research told me the majority of the people who read this genre of magazines are teenagers and very young adults. Therefore, through my questionnaires and secondary research, I found the magazine audience will be young teenagers and young adults. Through my textual analysis, I found that the main features were mainstream famous artists looking cool. Therefore, I have chosen to do the same, and so that my magazine appeals in the same way as real media products. The images on my magazines are of the same candidate who is a middle-aged teenager. The fact he's a middle-aged teenager captures the audience's attention, as they are also the similar age group. The image represents the culture and who the magazine is targeting, which are teenagers and young adults. The font I have chosen to include in my magazine is sans serif, as this font is young and is eye-catching. Therefore, the font is being sans serif is cooler and it appeals to my target audience. The colours I have chosen of the house style are blue and white. These colours are not too dark and are normal, which teenagers wear day in day out. Therefore, I thought this colour will attract teenagers to looking at the magazine even more, as the colour helps to make the magazine appeal to teenagers. Did you address your audience? My magazine used many conventions to attract my target audience. The mise-en-scène firstly captures my target audience's attention, as the props used, such as the key, clothing, cap, sunglasses, are props which teenagers wear in everyday life. Therefore, by my candidate wearing this attracts my target audience to want to read more, as they can relate to the same lifestyle. The close-up of my candidate is very effective, as he is engaging with the audience, making direct eye contact. Although his sunglasses on, this shows his superiority. You can still see his eyes. This may attract the target audience to want to read on. The font I used are sans serif. This again appeals and attracts to younger audiences such as teenagers, as it's an unusual font, however eye-catching. Therefore, I purposely chose sans serif font, as it's young and cool font which replicates what a magazine is trying to implicate. Therefore, the fonts play a huge deal to attracting my audience. The typography sizes are also different depending on the importance of the text, and again is eye-catching. The larger text is eye-catching and the smaller text is smaller. Therefore, the size of the font also should attract audiences on shop shelves. The short cover stories and the cliffhangers, which are very effective, they make the reader want to read more, and this attracts the reader. The fact that the typography mentions well-established artist names such as Wiz also attracts audiences to want to buy the magazine even more, as these stars are inspirational to teenagers. What have you learned about technologies from processing of constructing this product? Through using many technologies to construct my magazine, I learned a lot. Firstly, to construct my magazine, I used Photoshop, which was very hard to use at first, but as I progressed, I improved and began to get better. Through using Photoshop, I learned how to insert pictures and place them onto the page. I then found you have to press Command T together in order to select the image and edit it. I also learned how to use layers and how to name them. A layer would appear every time I added a text or image onto the page. Therefore, I constantly updated and names my layers and moved them on top of each other to either place my text on top of the image or on the sides. I learned that you must move your layers on the right hand side and drag them on top if you want your text or on top or behind the image. By using Photoshop, I also learned how to crop images. I learned this by going on YouTube and searching the tutorials. This helped me again gain a better understanding on how to crop images, and I improved and did this. I also used different fonts and sans serif fonts. This I got through a website called dafont.com. This website gave me lots of fonts to choose from, and I learned how to download them and use them on Photoshop. I also learned how to use guidelines to structure my typography on images professionally. The guides helped me to be able to structure my work, and I learned how to use them. I also used InDesign for my double page spread. On InDesign I learned how to place pictures, make columns, and I also structured my double page spread professionally. I also found how to create a gutter to split my text, which helped make my magazine look more professional. I also learned how to use WordPress, in which I was given an account, and I learned how to save files as JPEGs to upload them successfully. A disadvantage to WordPress was that to import a file, it had to be a JPEG file. When you used another sort of file, it did not upload. Therefore, this was a disadvantage of WordPress. Back at my preliminary task, what do you feel you have learned from the progression to full product? I have learned so much from my preliminary task. I feel my magazine looked horrible and was missing lots of effects. The imagery, colour, mise-en-scène, fonts, layout, I would have changed, as I feel it's dull and unattractive. The preliminary task was to design a college magazine, and I feel the font was poor in the college magazine. It was not sans serif, therefore was unattractive and dull. This I feel was unconventional, and I would next time include sans serif font. The structure was basic and not professional as my magazine product. However, I learnt a specific typography, font and colour must be the same in order to look professional. Therefore I used this for my real media product and used a professional font on my double page spread. On the preliminary task, I also noticed dead space, white in many areas. This made my magazine look dull and boring and not appealing. The content was very limited and was not laid out in the right areas to cover the dead space. Therefore I learnt from this and thought about extending my text and putting background also to cover the dead space and to make it look professional. The conventions used were very limited. Imagery had no mise-en-scène linking to the genre of the magazine. The conventions were poor and dull in the preliminary task, as the magazine house colour was only 2 colours. Therefore this made the magazine look dull. The words only for 99p were ordinary font. Therefore this does not appeal to the audience, as it is unattractive and not in sans serif font.